the spoils of war. I want to talk about the nature of what this does for all of us here on this plane. When we talk about spoils of war, I was given that title in a moment's notice. Loving who I am, telling myself, is this the right kind of guidance for all of us here? Or is it more of the, oh no, it's a negative vision for all of us, right? Or is this the reality that we find ourselves in when we look into the vision of a mirror? That's where we go when we go on a screen, right? I'm a mirror for what we are in this world. We often look out as we say, am I the winner of the war? We are not winning anything when we go to war. There is no winner. It is all loss. The spoils of war is a very different idea, because in those moments, those who say, I want the land or the greed of that vision, right? I want the land. I want the spoils. And what we realize in using that term is it is rotten. It spoils our hearts. This is not saying that it's just about love and freedom, right? We have the beauty of war from one level of understanding. People will say, I am being freed from the slave state in this moment. It is part of it's like the deconstruction of war. And what does it give us? Does it give us freedom, or does it enslave us in our hearts and minds? Others will say war is a necessary evil for some souls. However, when we are looking in the mirror, do we honestly say this is the right thing to do for those people that are being targeted as the victims of war? The victims of war are all. It is a stated given. It's a fact. There are no winners. It is not about saying that we belittle those who are constructing it in their hearts or in their minds. It's only in the minds. The hearts and souls of all know that we learn our lessons from the past, correct? This is where many go. We learn our lessons from the past. And we plant the seeds of let us not do that vision of destruction again. How do we take this vision into a higher realm of understanding? See, at those highest realms, war would be considered just one of those other construction events. Okay, this is part of it. This is part of those visions of where people are going to be needing more of those healthcare workers to come on the line. Okay, so there is a united vision where people are saying, yes, we understand. The end of destroying medical and healthcare workers is on the rise. We now know why. How many people say, I'm here to help? I'm here to help people free themselves from the oppressors of their lives. That's one vision of why so many souls are grateful for those who are willing to step in and say, let us free them from those slave states or those oppression states or whatever those states are that are being created in those peaceful hills, right? I come from a place of peace. But there are many souls who would say, my vision is of war because I need more. That's Putin. His vision is, I need more of what I lost. It was lost and I want it back. See, we assume that we are owning areas of land or people within those boundaries. Those boundaries are not there on a soul level. Peaceful movements come through. It is known by so many souls that boundaries are just imaginary lines we create in order to create a place of development for certain souls. Everyone has their peaceful vision, correct? Yet we create war in our minds. It's a universal vision of love that is handed to Brenda often for her to bring through. We all know that the boundaries are only within our minds, correct? How many people say, I'm proud of my country and I want more, like it's like Valium. Others are going to be taking Valium. I just want to acknowledge someone on the screen. There are so many souls who are creating from a place of, I am a victim, that I needed to lift myself out of the vision of victim of war. Okay? War is war, right? It's destructive, but it's another place of creation. It heals the hearts of some who may or may not be lifted out of the vision of destruction. I was released due to the vision of being rescued. We've set up a dynamic already. We have the drama triangle unfolding beyond it's like beyond the grave. So those souls who would say, I was part of war and I learned my lessons from it. It often tears people apart on the inside. No one wins with war, ever. You are either a victim of it or a aggressor of sorts, right? Or you are a rescuer, right? These are those dynamics we create often in our minds. Now, does this demean the vision of I am a ruler who wants more than what I need? Isn't that the name of the game in this world, right? I come, I conquer. That's where some of us are. Now, his soul would say he's being honored for it, correct? His vision of 5D, right? If we go to various levels of understanding, we're going to get different levels of guidance. But if we go to a universal vision, which is it's like we need to start thinking about how we detract from the vision of Vladimir. He's beautiful for his soul. He's taking control of his country. That's no small feat, correct? You want to know what it's like to know how to honor a man who's destroying others' lives? He's freeing himself from the slave state that he himself puts himself in. I needed more. What does that tell me? I'm greedy, right? I was a victim in my mind. That's all it is. And with my victimhood, I rise in the vision of conqueror, because we assume that to conquer means that we win. And when we win in our minds, does that mean we actually win? It's one level of understanding. Does he actually win this vision of war that he is embarking upon in his vision of I want more than what I need? His soul will give him a different vision for him about why he feels he needs more than what he has already. Because you see, in his vision, it's his country. It's his. He doesn't look at it as it's like a embarking upon the vision of slave state. How many people in his country would feel confident that he would kill them if they disagreed with him? Let's not hold those souls of Russia. He's of Soviet in his mind. He wants it back. He wants to be back in that pleasure zone of war, of prosperity. So his vision of prosperity is to have more versus I'm content with the vision of love that I have already. May peace walk along the plains that we reside in. That's his higher self. His higher self knows better. But he cannot be controlled in the mind. You see, that's the nature. On a different plane of understanding, he will learn those lessons of I am of less. I am of greed. I am a victim. I still hold on to the victim of my family tree honors me. You see, we often hold these visions that our families or the statehood that we reside in are supporting of our vision of destruction of other souls. Do you want to know what happens on a soul level when you destroy another soul? You don't destroy the soul. People will claim they are this vision here. This is one view of love. It's one plane of development. But does it mean that he gets off scot-free in the other visions of love? He will learn those lessons. He will honor those visions of I didn't do my best. I'm not here to destroy people. They could have given up easily. That's his soul from one level of understanding. His vision from his highest self is a much different kind of vision. He would be caretaken in his heart while he relived those moments of destruction that he himself participated in, created, and owned as his own value system. It is a value system that he holds on to highly. You see, this is where many start to rise in those visions of, do I value destruction or the oppression of other people? Do we not want to go to that level of understanding that the wars that we create in the name of greed are not there to lift anyone up, are they? You see, there's a difference between those who are trying to free others from the slave state and or oppressive states of being. And in doing so, it would be honored as a caretaker vision. You see, this is where this country also operates and is still in that vision of we went to war for the spoils of greed, right? We are no longer caretaking the vision of love of all, is where most people go, because they don't want to know that our own country has its blemishes. We would call them the blemishes. Others would say that's a demeaning vision. You look back in the past and you start to see that compared to other visions in other planes of reality, it was destroyed. So this idea that Putin is there to take everyone and put them into chains is not where he's at, okay? But we look at that vision as if he's the worst thing ever, when we ourselves are denying the vision of evil that so-called, by the way, that we ourselves perpetrated on many people in this plane of understanding at a certain point in time. It's one moment, right? So for him, he would look at us as a country and say, you've got to be kidding me. You enjoy the vision of spoils of war. You go to war all the time for oil, correct? We're all part of that vision. So until we can all start to look at war for what it is, it's a value system that's being played out on a screen, right? This is what people will say. There's no bad or good on the highest levels, but do we actually learn anything from that vision other than, do I participate in it freely, or do I try to hold myself in a higher vision so that we can, it's like unwind the vision of what greed or destruction is. If we look at it from a different plane of understanding, we would know we're in the victim mindset if we're ever going to cause aggression to somebody else. Unless we are there to save, right? We are still the aggressors. How do we decide who gets rescued in this vision of love? So let's not demean his vision, for he himself would say, I ride the rails of love as well. He is who he is. Okay? He's the one that knows how to do the work that Russia wants done. Correct? We want our country back. How many visions of country does he want to go through and take control of? Can you imagine the land grab that is going on all the time in this global vision? People still feel like the land is theirs. Look to the indigenous people of this country, especially, who have very much known that there are no boundaries and we do not own the land. It's a construct that we created because we want that vision of security. This is mine versus this is ours. all of us creating this vision of love. How many people can't handle that kind of vision, though? How many people are very content? I own a plot of land. It's mine. I get to decide how to create with it. Okay? It's like it can be, brought in from so many levels of understanding. We're not demeaning those who say I have property that I own. Okay? Versus the collective bargaining that we can do together. Okay? This is not about saying that we're all going to go hold hands, around the globe. But wouldn't that be nice if we could at least imagine a global vision where we're not trying to fight each other for land anymore? And we can say, hey, let's all try to cooperate and build bridges instead of fences. That's the nature of it. We're building fences around our souls instead of bridges to other nations or to other visions of love. So with that in mind, I just want to let you know it's okay to be greedy. There is no soul's vision here who would say that any vision is bad or good. It doesn't vibrate like that. You are not either bad or good. It's a frequency that you hold. So if you are in the view of, yes, I like hearing different perspectives. If Vladimir on this plane of development was a kick-ass mother blank, because he knows in his mind, that's how he creates. But if you wanted to know what his soul from a different level of understanding would say, he will be enlightened to the vision of destruction that he created. And he still creates with it. It's the mindset that we inhabit, people. And this is why when we look at the news, if we can do it gently, like Brenda does, she's like, I look at it gently, analytically, and I look at what's happening, not from a perspective of judgment as much as possible, but from a plane of understanding. Do I participate in this person's destruction, or am I holding them up, asking for them in a higher level of vibration? Do we honor Vladimir as one person, or as part of the collective vision of destruction that we ourselves are part of? That's his soul. We are all part of him. Now, that means when you do that vision, do you hold him in the highest, or are you angry at that vision? How many people say, I deny the vision that I am part of that man's soul? This is where it would be a different level of understanding. Once you go to the vision of soul, then you would say, yes, we often create in our own groups of understanding, and then we lift ourselves to other vibrations of love. But from the highest planes of understanding, we are part of him as he is us. Okay? So there's no belittling of his soul on that level of understanding. He's vibrating in the vision of, I need more land. I need more property. How many people understand that vision? Okay, it's just taken to a different extreme because he happens to be in the position of power to be able to do that kind of vision. Our own country is very much guilty of that vision. We say we love people and we still hurt. We think we all know what we do behind the scenes. This is where Brenda comes through with some of those strong visions of we are not the innocents in many cases. And yet we honor those visions of I love my country and I do damage in the name of it. Okay? That's part of another vision. Okay? We created wars for many reasons. And many have, it's like burnt the bridges. Don't burn the bridges is what Brenda is saying to her dad and her mother. I had to go past my family tree's vision and say, I'm not going to take on their values of love of our country only. I was told of the bad Middle Easterns, right? Countries, right? It was the vibration. It wasn't stated explicitly for the most part, but that was some of those visions that I had to unwind. I'm being honest. You guys have never understood the value of learning our lessons. So, this is what the lesson is. When you go through this period of I am embodying my soul, or I'm going to lift myself up into another level of understanding, it's not about condemning those who taught us how to create war, or taught us how to hate, or taught us how to be. We can either reject or accept the beauty of who we are. I don't demean my family for their visions of patriotic pride. What I do is I unwind it and say, why did we do what we did? And let us learn the lessons and say, does that actually serve my mind or my heart? Does it serve us well to create wars with others? Others will say it's a necessary evil. It is not evil in essence when you go to those higher levels of understanding, because in essence there is no such thing. Most will disagree because they will say, God has told me so. It is a concept that is created here for us to lessen our loads if needed by projecting out our own visions of what we deem to be less than in certain fields of vision. There are very few people who vibrate in the vision of there is evil amongst us. But when you do that vision, remember highly that you are creating with that in your own heart. There is no evil, people, amongst us. It is your own creation based on those books of love that keep reminding us that we are to be the good ones. Okay? But yet, that's the nature of fear that was put into us to try to lift us up so we weren't destroying each other left and right. It was an intentional vision to help lift us up out of destruction. But by putting evil in the mindsets of many, it often creates that projection of it onto others. And what does a projection of evil onto another do? Not much until they hear about it, right? It can be one of those visions of love for the soul. Others will say, it is my way of getting through the anger, bitterness, and fear that I do when I am, it's like constructed from that vision of it. Okay, this is a higher level understanding of what vibration we vibrate in. So those who say, I support Trump, also support the vision of evil, right? Because he's in that vision of God and hell or evil. Okay? It's not saying that. It's most people have this vision of evil. So it's not just about Trump. Trump's soul wants to come through and say, I would take Vladimir Putin in my arms. He's my kind of man, right? We've had those visions before. He loves him because he vibrates in the vision of he's a man of strength and honor and dignity. That's his vision of him. He sees that in himself. It's like they are, well, Vladimir would have something else to say about Trump, but in essence, his soul is very much of I can honor a man who can take control. That's his strength. He's like, I'm going to take control. Okay? So we want to honor our hearts and say, while we demean or demonize those from other countries who are doing these visions of injustice, we have to think very carefully about where we ourselves vibrate in that same kind of vision. Are we out trying to conquer other countries? Let us think about the ways in which we might be trying to do that vision. We may not be doing it in a way in which we go and take their land, but are we taking their resources? That's one field of vision. Resources are part of those spoils of war. But when we do it behind the scenes, it's not seen as so bad. This might be why we get into trouble with certain souls. See, other people are saying, we have no idea what we do on the other side of the globe in this country for the most part. We are very ignorant of how much control we wield in our vision of resource management from another plane of understanding. That's kind of the nitty-gritty of soul for you. But we want to keep this into that idea of what do those spoils actually get us in the long run? Are we creating more problems than what we are solving? That can be part of it. A lot of times we think we're solving problems and we're actually creating more. So this is not about creating division within the political fields. It's any president would have this vision of what's the greater good, right? That's kind of what we have to ask ourselves. What's the greater good? Is this going to harm or hurt? Does it harm our country in the long run to interfere with this war, create yet more division from another level of understanding, and then have that blowback handed back to us? It very well could. This is where Brenda will get those visions of the reality, right? Those higher tones. What's going on? What are we creating? What are we bringing back to us? Are we bringing back another war to us down the road? Do you want to know what that is? We already know that the beautiful vision of nuclear vision or catastrophe isn't on the radar anytime in the near future. That's a beautiful vision. I honor it. It's still there. Okay? So at this point, we're just going to wind ourselves into this vision of, let's just think carefully about how we wind ourselves up with this idea of like war is needed. Is it needed or is it wanted? Ask ourselves that question. Every time we go to war, we need to ask ourselves, is this needed or is this wanted? If it's needed, we need to ask, is this the best place for us to place our vision? Do we actually hurt more than we heal? Do we vibrate in the beauty of love of all when we do our visions? Or are we caretaking our own visions of less than or greed? Okay? This has nothing to do with religion or any kind of faith-based vision of what is or isn't. It's just one vibration of it. Others will say, we do the best that we can. That's always going to be honored. We're doing the best we can in the moment. That's the vision Brenda gives all souls, no matter what. They don't know better. But when you go to those higher levels of understanding, then you start to say, yeah, we start to know because we get our futures handed to us. That's her soul. I get my future handed to me, and I know if it's a destructive place, I know I need to go to a different vision, and I change my path. How about that for you? So, with Vladimir, he would say, I honor her. She's very honest, open, and loving. She has her own aspirations that others would say are greed. For instance, in the vision of, can I come through with a vision of Vladimir, honor his heart, and not have people say, I don't like her because she offends my sensibilities? He would hate her on one level for being so honest, right? Oh yeah, she's that kind of soul. But on another level, he would say, we honor each other's visions as souls. We don't demean each other, do we? On the soul, she doesn't demean the man, she understands the man. Why would we sit there and not understand greed and wealth distribution? This is where others are going to start saying, she's that liberal, right? Not even close. It's a higher vision of soul. So with that in mind, I'm just here to bring us various levels of understanding, the perspectives from various souls and from various levels of understanding. We are not just who we are here. We have those higher visions. I can hear various levels of guidance for my own soul. Some of them are not pleasant. That's the reflection of when I'm beating myself up on the inside, and it gets reflected back to me sometimes. I have my own insecurities about who I am. Okay? It's not always easy doing the vision of soul, especially for others. And when I start to bring in other visions that in my mind may not agree with me, their hearts are loving. I know every soul. Think about who I have brought through. And that on that certain level of love, they are all feeling very well. They are all honored, cared for, and it's like the energy of love comes through for all. And that's when you hit those notes. You know that, and you wouldn't hurt another soul. That's his soul on another level. That tells you the love. That's the love of God for those of you that vibrate in those visions. You would not be hurting others, right? Many will say, I've been told that I can do whatever I want in the vision of God. But in those higher realms, you understand the love of all. And you can create with the vision of hatred, but you know there is a much higher vision for all of us, where we have already created the vision of love as one of peace for all of us. At some point, we want to vibrate to that place of peace for this planet. And that's what I wish for all of us. Let us all vibrate in the vision of peace, prosperity, health, and love, because that's what we're all vibrating in, whether or not we know it. When we start to feel it and hear it, it rings true for all of us at some point. So with that, I want to say thank you for watching and have an amazing, amazing day.